Hi, and welcome back to Enneahouse. I'm Jeremy, your licensed Enneagram professional. Here with me, as always, is my beautiful wife, Shirley.
Hello.
And today we are going to talk about Enneagram Type 2. Type 2 is sometimes known as the helper or the philanthropist. I refer to them as Type Light because they're energetic, they're bubbly, they're cheerful, they're always running around trying to help people. So, what questions do you have about Type 2, Shirley?
All right, let's start off with their strengths. I know we have a couple friends who are type 2s.
Yes, Type 2s are full of energy. They always feel like they have more energy to give someone else. They can see a need and they can fill it. They recognize when people need help and they want to give that help to others. Hence the reason why they're called the philanthropist. The philanthropist is because they not only are able to see a need and fill it, they also desire to organize others to help them fill needs that they can't fill themselves.
Well, I know our two friends tend to be very able to organize others into such activities when the need arises. They're both very different still.
Yes, and people of the same type may be very different. In the case of our two friends, oftentimes the one is very engaged in helping individuals who she's met throughout her life, and the other is more interested in helping family. And it does depend on other aspects as well, but for the most part, twos feel an internal need to help other people.
I'm sure that can often spread them thin.
Very much so. To quote Bilbo Baggins, they feel like butter scraped across too much bread. In many cases, they spread themselves so thin trying to help others, they don't realize that they have needs themselves. In fact, many twos try to hide from their needs because they are afraid that someone might see them.
I remember you gave advice to someone to pamper their two companion.
Yes, so twos don't recognize their own needs. And as I said before, they might be even afraid of them. They might feel that their own needs make them less of a person. And because they make them less, the two's spouse will need to help them. The two's parents will need to help them. Or whatever other role has influence in their life needs to help them to take care of themselves, to become physically, mentally, and emotionally well. This is very important for twos because as they spread themselves thin, it's oftentimes the emotional wellness that's the first thing to go, and then they end up needing other people to carry them, which can be very, very hard for twos who want to carry everybody else.
So what is that drives them to do all this helping?
Twos are internally driven by a desire to feel good about themselves. They don't feel good about themselves unless they've done everything they possibly can, and because of this, they feel that it is very important to help others because the feeling they get when they help others is something that they crave, something they yearn for. In the worst case scenarios of twos who are in a bad psychological state, it may even become something that they become addicted to.
Well, I guess anything can become addictive then. Sounds like. So, if this is what drives them, what's their. Then I'm guessing their fear is probably not being helpful?
Their fear is not being helpful. It's mostly not being seen as helpful. Twos do not want to be seen as selfish. They do not want to be seen as having needs. But most importantly, the thing that they want to have people not see them as is, or rather, they want so desperately for others to see them as helpful that they don't want others to see them as helpless.
Hmm. So, what would their childhood message be?
Their childhood messages: it is not okay for somebody else to figure out their own problems. Or, said another way, it's not okay for someone else to shoulder their own burdens. Another interpretation of their childhood message is it's not okay to have needs of your own.
That must be pretty heavy.
It is a very heavy burden, and that's one of the reasons why, even though twos have a lot of energy, it is not uncommon for a two in a bad psychological state to become completely drained and incapable of helping others.
Wow. Seems every type has their positives and negatives. So where do they go in, well, I don't know, misalignment and alignment? I'm not sure where they go in either.
So in misalignment, type 2s become type 8s. They become very stubborn, they become very rigid, they become very hardened. It's not that they start to focus on their own needs, it's more they start to deny that they have those needs.
Ooh.
They start to say, I don't need your help, I don't want it. And because of that, a usually friendly, cheerful type 2 can become hard like stone and even abrasive to the people around them.
That's sad.
As for a type 2 going in a positive area alignment, type 2 goes to type 4.
Huh.
And in type 4, they recognize their own needs. They recognize their own emotional imbalance. They recognize that at their core, 2s are actually kind of selfish. They desire that serotonin boost. They desire that feeling of, I am so helpful. I am the best helper. I am the one you can rely on. I am the one you can always turn to. Me, 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 me. When they realize that that's how they come across to some people, and they calm down, they realize that some people don't need their brand of help at this moment. They start to become a lot more helpful because they recognize what people actually need. Let me go off on that for just a second. A lot of 2s will offer a kind of help to other people, and in many cases, that help is exactly what is needed. They have a talent for seeing what is needed. But in other cases, they may get it wrong. And in the cases where they get it wrong, they may try to offer help rather than asking a person if they need help. So if you think of a person crashing on the side of the road, not everybody has skills in automotives.
I think I'd cause more trouble if I stopped than good.
In some cases, you might. The medical professionals who are there to take care of the wounded, and the fire professionals and the police, they are there for a reason. They are there on emergency call all the time to specifically come out and help people who are in that kind of situation. People who stop on the side of the road tend to get in the way, and a lot of 2s feel when they see that person crash on the side of the road, I need to help them. What they need to do is just keep moving. It sounds selfish, but ultimately, they help a lot more people that way.
So would we find 2s probably more in the medical and, like you said, the law enforcement and other helper fields?
So 2s do like to be in helper fields. They do have a lot of energy. And so because they have a lot of energy, they are oftentimes taken into positions in sales or in baking. Oftentimes those who end up in a medical profession end up being trumped by those who are more strong type 3s, because type 3s are very ambitious. They feel the need to become a doctor to make that paycheck. And so a lot of 2s don't make it through medical training. But those who do are some of the best. Those are the ones who their slots fill up really fast, because when people see them, they say, that's a doctor I know and I like and I want to meet with them. That doesn't mean 3s make bad doctors. It just means that
there's a different aspect to being a doctor.
Yes, the medical profession is both a very helpful profession, but it's also a very financially driven profession. And so in a position that 2s are more likely to serve is something like the leader of an orphanage or in a daycare for animals. They are oftentimes very good with children. They are oftentimes very fun and energetic. We had a 2 neighbor growing up who was a party planner. And so 2s bring that effervescence to help people and make them happier. They want to help people, but in the long run, it is seeing that person smile that they really want. And so when they do something that is fun and creative, that oftentimes helps them go into more of that 4 state where they realize, I can't burn myself out helping everybody. Instead, I can play to my strengths and bring a smile to everybody's face.
They're the heart of the team.
Well, it depends on what the team looks like. If the team has a 2, they might be the heart. They might also be the one who is the one who brings cupcakes for the team, or the one who never forgets a birthday.
Yeah, I love those cupcakes.
They have a very real reason for existing, and that is that they are the Good Samaritans. They're the ones who see a man injured on the side of the road and want to help him when no one else can. But there's also an issue with that, and that is not all Good Samaritans who pass by happen to have the time, the money, the resources, the availability to help. And 2s need to realize what their time, money, and resources look like so they can allot their helping, as opposed to getting a lot of different people helped a little bit. It's better to help a few people a lot than a lot of few.
So what's the best advice you could give a 2?
Best advice I can give a 2 is to schedule. To schedule the time that you need for you, for one thing. take your time to meditate, take your time to plan out your day, take your time by yourself. I know that twos are extroverts, they want to be around other people, but a lot of their time gets taken up with helping people on the side of the road. A lot of time it gets taken up by chit-chatting. What they need to do is say, I have a plan and I'm going to stick with it. And that plan needs to include some time for themselves. They need to take a long bath or have a refreshing meal once in a while. Otherwise, they will spread themselves too thin.
Well, if so, do ones get along well with twos? Because I mean, the one could really help the two schedule very well, I'm sure.
It is entirely dependent on the one, the two, their relationship. It is generally seen that types that are next to each other on the Enneagram have a lot of overlap, but they also have a lot of whatever the opposite of overlap is. Things that are very, very different. Ones are by nature idealists who want to see the world in a positive light. Twos are by nature idealists who want to see themselves in a positive light. They want to see, I am the most helpful. Ones want to say, the world is a helpful place. And so ones very oftentimes can help twos, and twos can help ones. But the thing that they need most of all when the two of them interact is to recognize that their style of helping is very, very different. Ones have a desire to give people what they need, and twos have a desire to give people what they want. Both of which are very helpful, but it is imperative that in trying to give people what they want, that you don't forget what they need. It's also imperative that in trying to give people what they need, that ones don't force it on them. Twos tend to be very gentle at times, but they can also be, what's the word I should use? They tend to use guilt. Oh, it doesn't hurt my feelings if you don't eat these cookies I spent 15 minutes making. It doesn't hurt my feelings if you come to the hospital to sign my full body cast. Twos can use that, and that's a sign that a two is in a negative psychological state. In a positive psychological state, twos don't use guilt. Instead, they recognize that people should feel good about their actions, and they compliment and are very grateful. Their gratitude can go a lot farther than their guilt.
Oh. I guess that must have really made an impact on the makers of, what was it, Sonic Boom? They had an entire race that could use guilt.
Yes, and in the process of having a society that is built on guilt, that society will always fall apart, because in the end, it becomes the person who is able to instill the most guilt who becomes the leader. And so when twos want to establish a leader, they need to be sure to establish a person who is not necessarily the most helpful. They need to establish a person who has the greatest ability to be helpful. And so they need to look more at potential than at actual productivity. In some cases, twos tend to respect fours, even though fours tend to be low energy types that don't do as much. They respect the fact that when fours act, their actions are very potent. At the same time, they could also think fours are wimpy whiners, but we won't go there yet. What we're going to say, however, is that what twos need more than anything is to recognize that not all crises are created equal.
Well, I'm certainly grateful for the twos in our lives. I can name them and I love them. So thank you, twos that are listening. I know that there's somebody out there that loves and appreciates all the help that you give. So thank you for listening to our video today. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Make sure to visit our website, get your test done, and to see if you are a two or if you're one of the many wonderful types that we have in the Enneagram.
I'd love to meet with you and schedule your free consultation. I work with individuals, families, organizations, all for the sake of improving yourself, improving relationships, and improving the world. Next time we'll talk about Type 3, and we look forward to seeing you then.